Great to see you. Thank you for coming on our show today, and it's wonderful to have you. We're just going to let you say hello to our audience today, and you can greet them, and we'll go ahead and start talking to you.
Well, thank you, Ruby. It's so nice to be able to be here today and to share the story of the Salvation Army. And I greet the viewers and in the name of Jesus and give him glory for what God is doing through the Salvation Army, both in Orlando and all around the world.
Major Kelly, um, thank you for greeting the people. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit how you became a major in the Army, of the Salvation Army, and how you developed your path to the Salvation Army.
Well, I grew up in the Salvation Army as a child, going to the Salvation Army as my church,
Okay.
and spent all my early years as a part of the Salvation Army, actively involved in the youth activities. And the Salvation Army was very important to us, not only because of the church, but also because my family went through some difficult times with an alcoholic father and abusive alcoholic father. And when my parents split, the Salvation Army was there as a support for us, as is the case for so many people around the world. And they helped us in a lot of ways to get out of abusive situations that we found ourselves in. And so it was just natural for me to be a part of the Salvation Army all my life, and then to have that kind of assistance given to us. Uh, the Lord called me to be a Salvation Army officer. And at first I wasn't ready to say yes, and I thought, well, I can do this, and I can do that, and I can do the other thing. And finally, as a typical young adult, I finally decided, well, I better do what God is asking me to do.
Okay.
And I gave my answer to him that I would become a Salvation Army officer, except for I grew up in upstate New York, and I thought that I would be up in the eastern parts of the country, but the Lord called me down to the southern parts of the country, and I was able to work for a period of time in Jackson, Mississippi, and went to the training college in the South in Atlanta, and I now have been a Salvation Army officer for 26 years in the South.
Major Kelly, can you explain to us the rankings, how it works that you become a captain, a major in the Salvation Army?
Once somebody becomes a Salvation Army cadet, that's the ones that are going to the training school.
Okay.
They are there for 2 years, and then as soon as they're commissioned and ordained, they become a lieutenant.
Okay.
And they stay as lieutenants for 5 years, and then become a captain.
Oh,
and
wow.
then captains for 15 years, and then the next rank is major. And anything above major goes with a particular appointment, whatever it might be. You don't increase in rank above major unless you are put in one of those positions that would increase your rank.
Wow. Okay.
So a lot of people will retire as majors because they just don't
Go
go
further
to
than
those
that.
levels. And some people, the next level would be lieutenant colonel, and then colonel, and on from there.
Okay, Mr. Major Kelly, I wanted to ask you, with the Salvation Army, what is the difference between the thrift store and the regular where you work, the Corps?
Well, the thrift store with the Salvation Army is the main support, financial support for the adult rehabilitation centers around the world. Well, there's some thrift stores that are connected with Corps, but for the most part, they are connected with the adult rehabilitation centers, and that's the case in Orlando. A source of funding for the rehab for drugs and alcohol.
Right.
And then where I'm at is the offices that offer other kinds of financial and physical support for housing, for rent utility assistance, for food, clothing, that sort of thing. And it's also both places have worship services, but at the ARC, or the Adult Rehabilitation Center, the worship service is primarily for the residents and their families, and with the Corps, as we call it, it is for whomever wants to come and join us. So that's really the main difference.
Mr. Kelly, how has Salvation Army expanded in Orlando since the time it's been here? What's the expansion like?
Well, the Salvation Army started in Orlando in 1920, and it was just a small corps to begin with, and then they established a men's and women's shelter after a few years, and then it continued to grow and grow over the years, relocating twice until we're in the 60s at our current location. And when we started at the current location, there was just the core building, and then later they purchased a building, or they built a building for the residents program for
Okay.
men and for women. At that point, there wasn't a lot of women and children that were homeless. And then a few years later, it was seen that there was need for child care for the women who were coming in with their children, and so they began that program. And then the senior adult facilities were purchased or built because there was a need for uh, apartments for retired people. And my understanding is just after it opened, it already had a 2-year waiting list after they filled all the
Wow.
apartments in the 15-story building.
Whoa.
And then there was a corrections program that was added, and then there was a period of time where the finances were so desperate, and there were cuts that were made from funders that certain programs had to be closed for a period of time, and now the child care is not done on facilities because it was losing multiple thousands, hundreds of thousands a year because it was so expensive to run, and now we outsource that. But basically, the Army has grown every year in expanding the services, except for that period of time when there were so many major cuts in expending in funding in the 1990s. We have experienced some cuts again with funding, but here lately in the last couple of years with the economy the way it is. But what we're trying to do is adapt the program so that we can continue, because with the economy, there are more people in need, and we need to find ways that wherever we can, to help meet those needs.
Okay. And in this 15-story building, currently, is it full?
This 15-story building is full, and an additional building was built about 10 years after that one, and it's a 13-story building, and it's full, and there's a 2-year waiting list on both of those buildings. There's about 300 apartments between the two buildings, and yet there's a 2-year waiting list.
Wow. And this is all funded through the donations and...
Actually, the senior citizens high-rise is funded mostly through HUD, HUD grant, HUD programs, and each of the residents pay rent for their apartments based on their income. HUD subsidizes their rent.
Okay.
And so really, those programs are managed through those funds.
Okay. Okay, great. Major Kelly, I know you guys have a slogan, doing the most good. What does that entail?
Doing the most good really is our pledge, our promise that we are going to do the most good that we can with the resources that are given to us, with the personnel that is given to us, the volunteers that come to us. We always are trying to find ways to meet needs. And sometimes like I was saying before, we've had to adapt our services so that there is still a way to meet somebody's needs. Unfortunately, we can't meet everybody's needs who come to us, because it's such a great demand right now, especially with the economy as bad as it is. But we try to find ways to spread the resources that we have as far as we can without making it too far spread, and to give resources and assistance to people, not just financially, but with education, with coming up beside them and helping them also to find Jesus, who is the answer of all of our concerns and puts our lives back into perspective. So we're trying to do as much as we possibly can in good with what we have, and that's our promise. It's really our trademark, our brand for the Salvation Army in the United States at this point. And it is a promise, a pledge. It's not a bragging sort of statement at all.
Major Kelly, also, let's talk about the core. Let's talk about the programs that it offers in regards to the needs of the people.
We have varied programs, widespread programs. In the core community center itself, we have character building programs for the children and the teenagers that come to us. We have music programs for the children, and actually some music programs for adults. We actually have music instruction for brass instruments, for singing, for handbells. And we have a drum corps for the kids as well that can come and play the drum rhythms and that sort of thing. We have athletic activities as we can for the young people. And then we have programs for men and for women. And then, of course, the spiritual teaching that we do, Bible study, prayer meetings, the morning and worships at our services, Celebrate Recovery, which is, as it says, celebrating the recovery of people from drugs, alcohol, whatever their hurts, hang-ups, or habits are. And we do that in conjunction with the Adult Rehabilitation Center. And then besides those core programs, then we also have a men's shelter that has about 150 beds in it, and a women's and children's shelter with about 65 beds in it.
Okay.
And that's besides the two senior towers that we mentioned earlier. And for both of those places, they get 3 nights free, and then after that we have a fee of $9 a night to help offset some of the expenses. There are some of those folks that go into a deeper program where they commit to going to classes, going to job searches, trying to find ways to help them to improve their lifestyle, to get them out of homelessness as best we can.
Okay.
And those folks, a lot of times we will let them stay for an extended period of time with no fees.
Okay.
And once they find a job, then the fees are based on their income,
Okay.
so that they can start saving money to get their own home eventually and be back out of homelessness and make their own way. We also have a drop-in center for the homeless that folks can come in Monday through Thursday and just have an opportunity to sit at a table, have some refreshments, and talk to somebody or play a game with somebody, just to forget about their homeless situation for a little while, and to be knowing that they're worth something to somebody, because a lot of those folks that are homeless just feel like they're worthless. And what we want to make sure is that people know that there's value in everybody, no matter what their situation. And of course, we want to talk to them about how much Jesus loves them, and so we have that opportunity with that as well. Then there's rent and utility assistance that we give through our social services office for people trying to keep them in their homes, and other services like that we offer throughout the. And then it's a feeding program, a hot meal every weekday evening.
Okay. And the people that you said you have 60+ beds for the women's shelter, do those people receive food as well as the people in the men's shelter?
Those that are in the shelters have a hot meal for supper, and sometimes a hot breakfast, sometimes a cold breakfast, but they do get those 2 meals every day provided for them, and that's that is good nourishment for them.
Of course. Okay. Major Kelly, we would like to know, how does one go about qualifying for some of these programs and the assistance that you mentioned earlier in regards to the bill paying and stuff in that matter?
What we do is we take calls on Monday mornings so that we can schedule people throughout the week for interviews, and then they fill out information about their situation and provide for us the proof of their need. And basically, since in Orlando, our funds are for specifically Orange County. They need to show that they're an Orange County resident, and they also need to show what their bills are and give some information as to what caused them to get to this point. Our funders require that we look to see what the future holds for them and see if there's some way that they're going to be able to make the rest of the bills, because our funders presently only allow us to help once in a 12-month period. And so we need to be able to show that future management and ability to continue once we get them over the big hump. So they'll need to have copies of their bills. They'll have to bring information about their income so that we can see that for the future. And if we're not able to help them because of the limitations that we have because of our funders, then we will normally send those folks to somebody who might be able to help them beyond what we're able to do. We are working on getting further funding that will be able to give more direct assistance, a longer lasting assistance, and we have just started with a new funder that is allowing us to do follow-up with the residents, or the individuals that we're working with, the families that we're working with. And matter of fact, one of the parts of the project now will be that there'll be a family from a church that comes alongside of that family as part of this new program and help them to manage their money better, help them to manage their household better, and we will be able to help them a couple of different months to get them down the road to more stable lifestyle.
Okay, great. Okay, Major Kelly, what happens if someone needs a house?
Unfortunately, we're not able to help anybody with a house, but what we will do is we will, if we have space for them in our shelters, we will help them by providing a room or a part of the dormitory if they're single, to have some shelter for a period of time. And again, as part of that program, we try to help them to get work or to save money if they already have work so that they can eventually get their own house.
Okay.
We had a period of time where we had a housing company that was working with us to accept people into their housing without a deposit, which was very
Oh.
helpful.
Oh.
But we've lost that program. That company's changed their plans with that. So we're looking for another company that
Right.
can
That's
step up
it.
and help us with that sort of
Wow.
thing, because that's a big obstacle for somebody who's been without a home for so long to be able to go into their new home, is they have to have the first month's rent and they have to have other deposits, and it's very difficult
Mhm.
to get into their home. But if we had another organization that would work with us in helping somebody get into a home
Mhm.
just paying that first month's rent,
Mhm.
even they were able to work with utility companies to get them to turn on the utilities
Right.
without a
Right.
deposit too. That would be very helpful because that is a very big obstacle for folks. But
Okay.
unfortunately, at this point, we don't have that capability
Okay.
anymore.
Okay. Okay. Major Kelly. Also, when people are at the Salvation Army Corps, what do they do during their stay there? What can they do while they're there?
While people are staying at the shelters, we have opportunities for them to learn some job skills,
Okay.
interviewing skills, learn to write a current resume, to update their resume. We work with other agencies like Goodwill
Okay.
and getting some job training for them. We work with other agencies for different parts of the preparation for them to get work. If somebody needs some help with some education, we'll work with an agency that possibly will help with that as well. We do have people coming in from Lakeland to help
Mhm.
with, um, not Lakeland, Lakeside, to help with psychological concerns and
Mhm.
counseling sometimes. So there are things to do. There are activities for them throughout the day. Most of the time, though, we're asking them after they've gone through that training to go out and search for work.
Right.
And there's a requirement of doing so many interviews or so many applications in a particular week, so that there's some effort toward getting out of the cycle of homelessness. For the
Mm.
women who have children, we have outsourced daycare that
Okay.
they're able to take their children, which is right across the lake from our property, and so
Oh.
it's very convenient to the mothers to take their children there.
Okay.
If they're school-age children, then we help to make sure that the kids are enrolled in school and continuing with that,
Mhm.
trying to get them again out of the cycle of homelessness.
Major Kelly, missionary work. What does that entail, and how does the Salvation Army work in regards to missionary work?
Right now, the Salvation Army is operating in 125 countries around the world.
Wow.
And some of those countries are third world countries that are
Okay.
having difficult times and need support from other countries. There is always the expansion into new areas of the world that
Mhm.
need missionary help. So the Salvation Army has lots of opportunities for folks to become a missionary.
Okay.
Salvation Army officers can volunteer to be appointed at different places around the world. They wouldn't just automatically put me at another country
Right.
without me voluntarily saying
Right.
I'd be willing to serve
Okay.
in an international appointment. And so sometimes Salvation Army officers will be put in leadership positions around the world.
Mhm.
Right now, several of my friends, personal friends, are
Mhm.
serving in Russia and in Sri Lanka and
Mhm.
other places like that. But there's also opportunities for teenagers and young adults
Mhm.
to go on shorter mission trips.
Okay.
We were sharing before, my
Mhm.
daughter was in Haiti just before the earthquake,
Right.
serving for a week in a missionary role. And those kind of things are opportunities that our young adults
Mhm.
have at different places around the world. And in the last few years, my daughter's had the opportunity to be in Haiti uh, oh, I've forgotten the other places she's been, but she's been to 3 or 4 different places
Okay.
over the past few years, and other young adults from our corps
Okay.
have gone to some of those missions at different places. So it's an opportunity that is available for young adults, and most of the time they have a fee that they need to pay
Right.
in order to be able to go,
Oh,
because
okay.
the Army can't afford the
Right.
expenses of that. But um, there's just different opportunities around the world for men and women, and especially young adults,
Mhm.
to serve the Lord in helping people with different projects. A lot of times it'll be a project of building or painting or cleaning or teaching,
Okay.
the shorter periods of times. But then there's some that will serve for 3 or 4 years
Wow.
in an appointment someplace.
So it's based on what you want to serve when you accept the mission trip?
It depends on what's available, what you're able to do,
Okay.
and we have another couple from our corps who was in Haiti at the time of the earthquake and was a part of the triage center at the children's home.
Okay.
And then because the children's home was basically demolished,
Mm.
they, after the initial work of helping people was finished, they were reappointed to Jamaica, and they've just finished their 3-year term recently.
Wow. Wow. A lot of good work. What about volunteer work in Orlando? How does that work? What can they do for
There's
volunteer work?
there's a lot of opportunities for volunteer work in Orlando. We have special seasonal
Hmm.
projects that we do, and then there's ongoing projects. We have the need for people to help with the serving of the meals on a
Okay.
daily basis. We have some opportunities with the senior citizens in their apartments that they are not able to clean their apartments appropriately, so we'll have volunteers that will come in and help them clean their apartments.
Okay.
And we have some volunteers that are trained in some sort of a medical field that can help the seniors with
Oh,
some of those needs.
wow.
We have landscaping projects that we have people that can come and help us with cleaning. We have one particular gentleman that's been very consistent in his volunteering to help us clean our block because we have a lot of traffic on
Yeah.
our street, on our block.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so there's always trash to be picked up,
Yeah.
and there's always leaves to be
Uh huh.
blown, and this gentleman's helping with that. And there's just a lot of opportunities, varied opportunities for volunteering. We just had about 850, 900 volunteers from Papa John's
Wow.
International on our property yesterday, helping with a big project, multiple projects, painting
Wow.
and building new playgrounds and that sort of thing.
Oh,
Just really great day. They're having their conference in Orlando, and they had this group of volunteers that came to do this, and it's something that's been organized for several weeks.
wow.
So there's, again,
So
lots
it's
of different
opportunities.
opportunities, and people just need to contact our office
Okay.
and ask for Wendy Hu. She is our
Okay.
director of volunteer opportunities.
Okay. All right. Muy fast. Okay, Mr. Kelly, what would you like to let everybody know about Salvation Army that you think is the best thing in Salvation Army that you would like to share with the community?
I think the best thing about the Salvation Army is the fact that Jesus is the center of what we do. We do everything in His name, and with the objective of reaching out to others in need and to meeting needs as best we can. And that we need the support of our community to help
Okay.
us, because without the financial support that we get, we're not able to provide the housing that we provide. Without the donations of food and clothing, we're not able to help with those needs. And without the volunteer help, we are shorthanded. So any ways in which the
Okay.
community can help us, that is greatly appreciated.
Okay. Major Kelly, also I want to ask you, I know Christmas is very far, however, but I've heard good things about the program. What can you tell our audience about that, the Christmas program?
The Salvation Army at Christmas time has a great opportunity to share with people in need through the generosity of people in our community. Um, this past year, we had about 4,000 children that
Hmm.
were on our Christmas trees, our angel trees
Yeah.
in Orange County, and people of this community were buying gifts for those children, and then we were able to give those gifts to the parents, and the parents were then able to give them to the children for Christmas. Um, we have lost some funding for that because
Oh wow.
one of the foundations that had been funding that for many years, at one point just a few years ago, it was 160,000 that they supported that program with, and now next year it'll be zero because they've changed their approach and the outcomes that they want to have, and for that, Christmas giving is not as important for them now.
I understand.
So we are relying on the community all the more as we approach this next Christmas, which is, like you said, a few months away, several months away. As we approach that time, we're counting on the community to be able to go out and purchase gifts at the Angel Tree
Right.
more, or to bring gifts to us directly that we can give to children. We are working with partnering with Toys for Tots next
Okay.
Christmas, so that the focus can be on the clothing that are being purchased for the children, because then we can supply the toys through Toys for Tots. And that way we're also making sure that we're able to help more families between the two organizations, because we discovered that there was a lot of duplication between Toys for Tots and the Salvation Army.
Oh.
And so in future years, we'll be able to make sure that each family is given some toys so that we can spread it out to more families. And then through the Angel Tree program, people can purchase clothing, shoes, for these children, because that, as any parent would know, that's vitally important, and it's not very inexpensive to purchase clothing for growing children. So those are some opportunities that we have at Christmas time, and we're looking forward to working with Toys for Tots and meeting more needs at Christmas time this year.
So people are still encouraged to, I know they have like a Christmas sign-up program. Is that it? Can they still do that?
Yes.
Okay.
In October, we will do the sign up for any families that are in need.
Okay.
So I would say that anybody listening now that are finding themselves in need in the Orlando area, that they would need to be watching the news in September and October to wait to hear where and when they can sign up for assistance through the Salvation Army and Toys for Tots.
Awesome, awesome. Kelly, do you have any closing words for our audience, or any closing remarks that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, knowing that the audience is a group of believers in Christ, I just ask that please keep the Salvation Army in your prayers, not just in Orlando, but all around the world, because our primary focus is in finding ways in which we can introduce boys and girls and men and women to Jesus Christ, and to meet their physical needs so that we can talk to them about their spiritual needs. We don't force anybody to go through any kind of religious teaching in order to get assistance, but we do try to find ways through the assistance to share the love of Jesus with people, and to share, especially at Christmas time, the story of Christ coming into the world and how important that is for all of us to know. So just keep us in your prayers throughout the year. We are not in existence just at Christmas time, but all throughout the year.
Definitely.
And we could use your prayer support and your financial support and your volunteer support if you have time to volunteer. And we have volunteer opportunities for people who are not physically able to stand.
Oh, wow.
Or anything, just we can find things for everybody to do if anybody has some time that they would like to call and check with us.
Okay. Continue garder Tele Anacaona, garder community connections pour nous avoir toute qualité bail qui dans communauté, so nous capable gon pi bon de merci de vle, nous même avec toute famille. Parce que changer. Donc moi c'est Rooby Celestin, moi là pour nous dans community connections. Si c'est notable parler avec moi, nous mettre les moi n'importe là, m'a là, si nous pas jamais qui ton message, m'a retourner call nous, et puis m'a toujours là pour me découvrir tout ça communauté a gagné pour nous, et puis ça gagne pour famille. Merci que vous êtes branché avec nous aujourd'hui. Moi, encourage vous continuer branché avec nous. Nous là chaque mardi, 6h, branché avec nous, gardez nous, et puis, moi souhaite une bonne journée.